Death or Prison. Brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. The men you are about to hear have spent more than 50 years in prison. We bring you stories of hope and encouragement.
Welcome, everyone, to Death or Prison podcast, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. And today we're talking about more unintended consequences. To my left, I have Mr. Elmo Golden. To my right, we have a special guest today, Mr. Willie Goldsby. Unintended consequences. I remember you were mentioning in a previous segment about unintended consequences and the ripple effects of how sometimes we don't think.
Right.
And during that segment that we were talking about unintended consequences, you mentioned an episode when you were about 16 years old, if I remember correctly, and you ended up shooting someone.
Right.
Well, I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. The person that we're talking about is none other than the person to my right, Mr. Willie Goldsby.
Yeah.
And so walk us through a little bit of how you all met.
We had a mutual friend, and he was a little older than I was. He was somebody that I actually looked up to. He was charismatic. I thought he was a good friend, and one day he belittled me. He told me he called me a little boy because of my age and because of how old he was. That wasn't the problem.
Hard to think of you ever as little, just by the way. I just have to put that in there. But
that wasn't the problem. Yeah. We'll get a guy named Tony.
Okay.
And like I said, I actually looked up to him. I thought he was a cool guy. He was someone that I had brief contact with, and I saw some qualities in him that I thought was part of becoming a man. At that age, 16 years old, I had already put it in my mind that you don't talk to me like that. My name had changed from Elmo to Big Mo, and you don't talk to Big Mo like that. Okay. And the problem really was he said something to me in front of a woman, in front of a girl. And so I looked at him. At that particular time, I had always carried 2 pistols with me that I brought off the street. And I told him, I said, you know what? I'm coming to see you. And so I had nothing really to say that could really redeem my manhood in front of this woman. And so I thought about something that I had given him.
Yes.
It was $2. I had given him $2. So, like a little boy, I said, you're going to pay me my money. You're going to give me my money back, so I can show the girl that, hey, you called me a little boy, but you're getting money from me. And he looked at me and brushed me off, chunked me off even more. Man, get out of my face. Get on down the line. You can't get nothing. And I was devastated. I was hurt. I was looking at this guy as somebody that can teach me and take me maybe to the next level. And in my mind then, he became an enemy. He became somebody that had to be destroyed and taken out. And from maybe 6 hours later, I saw his car. And I showed up, which was what I thought was his house. And I knocked on the door. And I told him to come outside. I'm out here. And again, he brushed me off. He thought it was nothing. So I pulled a gun out and I started shooting.
Wow.
Little did I know that there was somebody else with a bigger gun than what I had. And I didn't know that they were friends. Came outside and started shooting either at me or in the air. And I panicked. I returned fire. And I didn't know that I had hit someone. You know, I was actually so afraid of the actions that I had perpetrated against this other guy that when somebody else came out and was got involved in it, here I am now thinking like, what have I done? What have I done? Unfortunately, I hit Mr. Goldsby. I got out of the neighborhood, and the rest of that day, the rest of that night, I began to look at myself and how my life had begun to spiral because of the choices that I was making. But no one was there to talk to me about doing something right, turning myself in or getting help about the situation or talking about it.
Yes.
Instead, the guy that I was with reinforced my bad behavior and saying that he deserved that.
What triggered what was going through your mind, and what triggered you to react in the way that you did?
Okay, as I was saying, my recollection of it, it was about 11:20 that night because the news was just getting ready to come on. Tony, the guy we addressed as Tony, he had came by probably about 15 minutes prior to that. And now we're going back some years. Like in the day, there was Jerry curl time. so he actually stopped by to get some curl activated.
You remember some details, brother.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I remember that very well, very well. And he was in my bathroom, and I was sitting on the couch. As a matter of fact, my wife and the two boys in the room, they were sleeping. They were in their room. She was in the room. I was on the couch getting ready to watch the sports. That's why I knew at the time it was.
Okay.
And he was in the bathroom, Tony. And all of a sudden, I heard another knock. And I guess now, I figured out it was Elmo at the time. I thought they were together. I had no idea. I thought he was taking too long. He came to tell me, man, let's go. Because I heard the knock on the door, and they both walked out. And shortly thereafter, I heard a shot. Pow, pow. And it was close. It was close. So I'm like, whoa, this close. So at the time, I ran in the room and grabbed a pair of pants and put on. I had a T-shirt and my underwear. And I grabbed my piece, because I didn't want to go outside on something I didn't know, but I know it was gunfire. It was very close. So as I stood to the door, it was another couple of shots, and one fired my way, and it hit me. That's when Elmo, I saw him. It played in my mind so many years afterwards. I just could see it slowly, but I ended up getting shot, and then I returned fire. I shot till I emptied the magazine in it. So at the time, I don't even know what's happened. That's all I know. But when I walked to the door, I could see, I guess at the angle that I was at, I saw them two standing here, and I saw the gun. So I guess Elmo shot the back of his glass out of his car. But I thought at the angle, he shot him.
Okay.
That's when he turned around and he shot. He turned around, and when I hit the door, as soon as I hit the door, I got shot. Bam.
You're shot. I know you're obviously in some pain. You're bleeding.
Severe pain, bleeding.
What happens next? Like, do you go to the hospital? How does that happen?
Okay, we were living on 12th Avenue at the time in Fort Lauderdale, which is a area known for some activity.
It's rough.
It was rough. It was rough over there. So, it was just survival. And I lived right across the way from, it was 4 units there. So as I got shot, I'm bleeding. I returned fire. And I was really scared myself because I don't know whether it was Elmo or one of the guys with him. I saw someone fall back, and I was scared. I thought I killed somebody. I really thought I killed somebody. So I'm scared, and, but I mean, at the time, it's blank. It's
adrenaline.
It's adrenaline running. I saw them fall back, and that's the memory. Probably kept a lot of the pain off of me, even though I was feeling pain. But I was scared as well. I was scared because I thought I done took somebody's life, and I'm like, oh Lord, it's over for me. Yes. I remember falling back, but they left. I went next door. And Elmo, I guess being the warrior he wasn't done. It came back.
Yes.
He came back. And he came back, but I didn't have any more bullets. But little do they know, I was right next door. They were looking here. I was right here. And I kept begging my buddy, thank God. It was Angelo. I kept begging him to give me, man, let me have your gun. Let me have your gun. Let me have your gun. And he wouldn't. He said, no, man. And then at the time, I'm losing blood. So I'm losing blood, and I'm getting weak. I'm getting weak. And I wanted to just do them all. They was right there. I could have just did them all. Thank God I didn't get no pistol in my hand at the time, because I don't think we would be here today. And after they stayed a while, they came back. I mean, they was ready. They was ready to finish off what they started. And they finally left. I remember being on the gurney. By this time, the police came. I could hear the police outside. They picking up the casing, but they don't know. I'm right there. I'm within 8 feet of them. They don't know. I'm listening to them. So when I come outside, they never knew who was who and what. They was just trying to figure out was what. But I was on the gurney, and I never forget looking up at my little boy. You know, he was crying, and she was crying, and they took me off. I went to the hospital, and they got me, they treated me, and thank God I was blessed, because it went in my right thigh and came out right up above my knee. So I got a pierce, right through. So it was a clean shot. It went through. So
in my mind, I was devastated, because I didn't know him, and he had nothing to do with it. And so here I am. I'm already torn because this guy's taking advantage of me just based on my age. I want to continue on to, who is this guy and why is he coming out and getting in my business? And like I said, I was very prideful. I believed in machoism. You don't mess with me, because I'm at the point now where your life means nothing. I've gotten to this point in the early 16 years. I've gotten to the point now where I dehumanize everybody, including members of my own family. And so now I was a threat to everything and everybody that moved around me. Now I have to deal with hiding. I can't show my face. I can't go to places I used to go. I know my name is about to be out here in the streets. As somebody that's armed and dangerous. I know the police is probably looking at me. As a matter of fact, the guy that I was with turned my name in so that he couldn't be a part of the investigation. And so for a few days I was hiding, and then I found out the police they knew where I lived. So now they have pictures of me, and they're looking for me. During that time, I dispelled the thought of turning myself in. I dispelled the thought that I needed to find this person and apologize to him or whatever. All that was out of the window now. It had really came down to street cred and also the ability to either amplify my name as somebody in the streets now that you need to be on the lookout for, or either I just continue on hiding. I never thought about his children. I never thought about his wife. I never even thought about whether he would live or die. I mean, even in at that time, I blamed him for years for coming outside.
Yes.
For years, I held out like, you know what? If this guy never comes outside, my criminal history, my record would be admonished, and I wouldn't have these problems. He should have never got in my business. And that's how I felt like that for years. And I was so angry with the way that Tony handled the situation, and then the way that it ended up, that I even started putting in the feeling that, yeah, you deserve that. That's how I was feeling. Because I had to make up these stories and justify my own actions, but in the back of my head, in the back of my mind, I was dead wrong.
How did all of it get resolved? How did it all get or did it get resolved?
In the streets, everything makes it back to mama.
Okay.
So now the chief investigator, mama, is on the case, and you don't hide from mama. She know where you at. She know what something is wrong, and she told me, she said, you're going to turn yourself in, you're going to get this over with, and then you're probably going to end up in prison. And again, I had to fortify my own thoughts. I'm gonna go to prison. I'm gonna be tough in prison. I can make it through this. They don't, my mama don't care about me because now I'm blaming her too. She wants me to go to jail, and so I turned myself in. When I get down there, I look on the wall. They got a whole wall of pictures that my sister had gave to them.
Wow.
I'm actually, one of the pictures, I'm standing there with a drink in my hand, 16-year-old boy, a screwdriver, getting ready to go to the Bahamas. Because I had already been involved in a lot of other activity, a lot of criminal behavior, such as armed robbery, before it even got to these points. This is why I had money all the time at this young age. I've never had one gun. I've always had two or multiple guns that I bought off the street. Yes. He knows that in our neighborhood, this stuff is always readily available to you, no matter how old you are, as long as you got the money.
Yes.
And so we grew up like this, and we had these weapons, and those weapons reinforced our manhood. And then we had the idea of, at that particular time, we had a lot of gangsters in our neighborhood. We had the Pookie heads, the Mater heads. We had all these guys they had everything. They had the cars, the girls, the jewelry.
Now, when you say the Pookie heads and the Tomato heads, those are like gangs or?
No, these are individuals.
Oh, okay. Just names. Those are names of individuals.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And so I said, well, you know what? I blamed everybody else, and I turned myself in. And when I didn't know the law that well then, but I knew that all I had to do was 21 days because of my age, that they'll release me to my family. And so they released me to my family. And I stayed out of the way. I knew I was in trouble. My mom had stepped down on me. She told me how I disgraced the family name. She got on my case. She made me stand. She put me on house arrest. And she just did, and I followed out through that. Now, along the line, I believe Mr. Goby was contacting me. He was sending information to me that I better talk to him. He was trying to contact me, and he had put a hit out on me. And I'll let him explain exactly what happened then, because I don't know the back part of it, but I do know that people were looking for me.
Well, I came from the hospital, and like I told you, the last thought I had when I returned fire, I saw someone fall back in the car, so I thought I hit him. So that really consumed a lot of my fear and everything. I was wondering, was that person all right? So as I was contacting people in the streets, that was my first concern. How bad were they hurt? How bad pour down that I missed? I didn't hit them. But I think, like you say, I shot up the car pretty good, right?
Yeah. I mean, he says that when he unloaded the magazine, the whole magazine went into my friend's car. And it was riddled. The bullets were riddled all the way through the car, and there was somebody in the car that was sitting in there, which was my driver. So we're talking about maybe 9 bullet holes in this car.
Wow. Do you remember, before you get to the rest of do you remember what type of gun was it again?
I noticed he tried to avoid that.
It was a 45 automatic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a testimony to this brother right here. God definitely had some something going on. A 45. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I returned from, like I said, when I came home, so I'm still trying to grasp what happened. I didn't know. I thought they came together still. I didn't know what happened. So when I finally saw Tony after I came back home, from home, and I was bandaged up and everything. And, in the area we live, it was time. It was on now.
Yes.
But when I found out it was over two, I talked to Tony. I said, "Man, what's going on?" I said, "Who this guy is that shot me?" His name Elmo. I heard of his name, but I didn't know him. Heard of him. So I'm like, man. And then I found out it was over $2. That really angered me. So I really didn't have beef with him. I didn't have no beef with him. And once I thought about it, I would have did what he did because he didn't know my intent when I came out the door. And so I put word out. I say, he need to come see me. And that was the word. I put a word out. He need to come see me. We had this young lady down the road at the time, and saying. And so I say he need to come see me.
Now, for the sake of people that don't know what that means, what is come see me? Because the person think, well, he just want to talk to him.
Yeah.
I put word out, and then after a day or so, we need to discuss this, find out what's going on. If not, it was hopping and popping.
So it's basically you were looking to have a discussion with him, not necessarily a confrontation.
Right, because I didn't have no beef with him, but I still wanted to know what happened. I didn't get his point of view. So when I finally, he got the word, and he came, I think it was within a few days, he came with his entourage. And I'm like, no, they can't come in, you come in. So he showed me he wasn't strapped, and he came in, we sat right there at my table. And that's when I got the story. And that's when he said, man, he owed me $2, and he was with this female. You remember when you told me that?
Yeah.
He said, you with this female, and I asked him about my $2. I said, $2? I said, man, you could have knocked on my door. I would have given you $2. And then that's when he went, he said, no, it wasn't really about the $2. He said he tried to disrespect me in front of this female he was with. And I remember that well. And he said, that's what caused it. So that's when they had the word. So that's what it all started about. So we talked, and really, at that point, once he told me his thing was, and I knew what mine was, we had no problem after that. Him and I, it was squished. It was squished. We had no problem after that. He didn't have to worry about looking over his shoulder. Because some guys I hung with, man, these guys, oh my God, most of them, they gone now. They're gone now. They're gone. Yeah, they all.
Yeah.
We used to do stuff that wasn't bad. It wasn't nice.
Yeah. The guys that he's talking about, they controlled the section of the city.
Oh, okay.
And they were guys that controlled what came inside of the city, the drugs, and how much came in, and who was allowed to be on the corner.
Wow.
Those guys were also. They had a ring of guys that would rob other dope dealers and stuff like that. And so most of those guys now are dead. And they're a little bit older than we are, or about our age. And so just to paint a picture of the community that we were living in, you had no choice but to choose death or prison. If you made it out of that without having some kind of conflict, or you got out unscathed during that particular time, you were lucky. You were fortunate. And every day there was the shooting. Every day there was someone ODing off drugs, or you see that it was like a movie, and you asking me to navigate my life through this particular this mess. And I couldn't do it. The only thing I had to do was adapt to what my environment was. I had no choice. I had to, I said, well, he has a gun, I have to have two. Now I need a rifle. And then, like I say, you put me in this environment. I'm an intelligent young man. I was going to school and everything else. Well, let me back up. At that particular time, I had been kicked out of all schools in Broward County because I had became so angry. The ticking time bomb teenager, that was me. And so the guys that were in that neighborhood, the guys that he had told about me, those guys were looking for me, and then I knew better. Like I didn't want to have any problem with these are these guys' real name, Mater Head and Pookie Head. I didn't want to have any problems with these guys. I didn't want to have the guys 38 and 48 looking for me. And I said, well, you know what?
38 and 48, that sound like some pistols. And if your nickname, If you're named behind a gun, yeah, I think I'd be a little.
And that, I mean,
intimidated.
you will always hear these guys.
Those were brothers.
You remember there was a guy. His name, his first name was a curse word, and he was about this tall. And at that particular time, someone had came through and murdered him. And so rather than your neighborhood, they murdered this guy. And so now everything over there was escalated. So these guys were actually going in other communities, other neighborhoods, looking for to kill this guy. So if these guys are they already killed this guy. They looking for me. They gonna kill me. They gonna kill me.
Wow.
And so when the call came out, it was really, it's nice now, but it was really come talk to me or else.
Wow. Yes.
If it's or else. Because now we're gathering the information now. And we know who your family is. We know what's going on with you. We know who your nickname now. And you do this, and then the guy that's organizing it, Mr. Goldsby, can either say, let's carry this out or let's stop it.
Okay.
Our car had broke down, and him and Tony was together. And they got out to help my mother fix her car so that we can go to court. And so I'm sitting in the car like this. And I'm watching them engage my mom concerning her vehicle. And so, they thank you, and then we end up going to court together. So my mom looked at me and she said, "What's wrong? What's wrong with you?" And I said, "That's the guy shot." And terror came on my mom's face. To the point, she said, "Look what you're doing. Look what you're doing to me. Look at the position you putting me in." So that was a breaking point for me. I didn't know how everything was going to turn out. I didn't know if they would take revenge against my mom or what they would say would concerning me. And then when we get to the courthouse, we go into a juvenile courthouse, and they like, juvenile? And we're sitting there in the courthouse. I got to emphasize, by my actions, I've gotten my mom in a situation where she can lose her life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there like, man, I'm still thinking about what I'm doing, what I've done. How I affected. Now, this is the first time that I actually thought about his friends and his family, because at that moment I was so caught up that it didn't matter about anybody else and anything else. The only thing I was trying to do was self-preserve and get revenge about my pride being hurt. That was what it was all about. And so that at that particular time when we're in the courthouse, I'm looking at them and I'm looking at my mom, and I'm saying to myself, this at that, like I say, this isn't over, because I'm still blaming him and his friend.
Yes.
For putting my mom in this situation. Now I'm not going to take responsibility for this, because if he hadn't disrespected me, I would never shot up his car, and he wouldn't have never came outside and shot me. This is the immature thinking that I have. And then I think after that court date, it caused me to reevaluate my relationships with my friends.
Yeah.
Because none of my friends, they were always older than me, but none of them actually tried to help me or actually tried to prevent anything that was happening. They actually drove me over there, And we're talking, these guys are 7 or 8 years older than I am. And so where was the guidance? Where was the leadership? Where was the mentorship then? It was always somebody in that neighborhood provoking you to commit an evil and commit the next crime against somebody else. And then after a while, it started feeling good. It started feeling good, inflicting pain, inflicting hurt on somebody else, because it caused me to hide my own pain. It caused me to not look at my own inadequacies and my selfishness. Now we want to go further
Yes.
because here's another part of it when we're talking about family.
Mm-hmm.
I end up under the tutelage of his father. His father was my teacher. His father taught me how to cook, how to prepare meals, how to organize menus. And he had done this for a while. I'm gonna let him tell you about the encounter between.
For that, excuse me. You had to, he doesn't press charges. You still have the state pick it up. So this mentoring happens afterwards.
Years after. But to clarify everything for the people that are kind of following along, there is a time where you actually serve time for the action, or no? No. I was a juvenile.
Okay.
And so I received a 2-year sentence.
Okay.
And of probation. And that was really because of him not trying to push the issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
If he would have said, I don't want him on the street, I'm in fear of my life, then it's over with for me.
It's over with. Okay.
So, one of the things that I really wanted to say to him is that I'm thankful for meeting him, for everything that he's done for me, for looking at my life and not thinking that, you're just a piece of trash and you need to be in prison. He could have did that.
Welcome, my brother. You're welcome.
I got love for you.
You're welcome, brother. You're welcome.
Yeah.
So it's years later, and your dad is now, the incident is over with. You've kind of moved on with your life, and now your dad is kind of mentoring him. Walk us through how you find out about that.
Well, they was working at a restaurant that I worked at for many years, and my dad knew about the incident, but they never knew who he was.
Okay.
And one day, I came. Cause I used to even when I left there, I used to go help out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came there one day, I be darned, that's what I hadn't seen him in years. And when I walked in there, he was there. It was like, whoa. And there's a little whispering going on. That's the guy shot. That's the guy shot me. Bye-bye. So it went like that. The owner of the restaurant found out. A couple of people worked there found out, and then my dad found out. So
yeah,
it's kind of like the cat got out of the bag, and a lot of people still was they were just amazed that I guess in that era that happened. You're supposed to be beefing. We're supposed to be at each other's throat.
Yes, yes.
We weren't, and that caught a lot of people by surprise. We wasn't but if you really look at it from the beginning, we never had no issue at E&I.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a few years older than him, so we kind of I'm living. I didn't get. Luckily, I came out as best I could with that. I didn't have no long-term effect with it.
What was your dad's reaction to finding out about Elmo being the perpetrator? And then what was your reaction to the dad's reaction, Elmo? I guess I'll let you start, and then I'll let Elmo.
Well, my dad wanted to cut his throat.
Wow.
No. His dad wanted to cut my throat. His dad had a knife in his hand. When he found out, and the relationship between his dad and I was beautiful. His dad used to pick me up all the time. We would always talk about fishing. Like I said, he was teaching me. He was providing me with a skill that would enable me to take care of myself and my family. Now, by the time I met his dad, I had been to prison already for armed robbery, attempted murder. I went when I was 17. As a matter of fact, I didn't even finish the probation that I was sentenced to when we had our incident. I did 5 years for that, and I got out of prison. I'm still prideful. I'm thinking that I'm close to God in the way that I am God, not that I'm serving God. No, I think that I am a God now because I've done what the people in my community have done. They've been to prison, and that makes us tough. And so now I'm out of prison. As a matter of fact, I had just had my daughter. I was still prideful, very arrogant. I felt untouchable. I'm quite sure that most of you guys understand that because at that age, I was 22 years old. And so I had submitted myself to his dad. I didn't know that that was his son that I had shot. But I'm telling you that story about me being incarcerated at that young age. That was the first time I was incarcerated. That I still had these problems, these issues, this root of bitterness that I had never dealt with. And so when I met somebody that paid attention to me and cared about me, I submitted myself to him and I allowed him to teach me. And so now we're back to, I'm going to cut your throat now. I'm going to kill you.
Small world.
So now I come in the morning and we call his dad Reb. Hey, how you doing, Reb? You know, he's like, So, I'm figuring Reb having a bad day. So throughout the day, I was, Reb, you want me to help? No, stay away from me. And I know he had came in that day. He was coming in to work that day. I figured that nothing was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, him and I had a conversation, and I still don't know really that this is Daddy.
Yes.
So this man always got this knife in his hand, cutting this meat, cutting these vegetables, not talking to me.
Wow.
And then finally, he just exploded on me. And I've never heard this man, really just get out of line, curse, or anything. Here's another guy that I looked up to that was really genuinely concerned about my well-being. And he told me he's going to kill me. He said, if I get in his way, and he told me he had that knife, he said, I'm going to stick this all the way through you. And so now I'm 22 years old, and I'm automatically thinking I got to defend myself. My next thing was to go talk to Willie. I said, man, tell your daddy to stop. I'm not gonna let him hurt me. Now I don't know what conversation he had with his dad or something like that, or did he just brush it off or something like that. But that relationship which I treasured was severed now. We're still talking about unintentional consequences. Here I am with somebody that can provide something for me, again, to take care of my family. And because of what I've done in my past, that's over with.
Do you remember having a conversation with your dad about Elmo after he had said, hey, your dad's basically, he's talking about threatening my life or doing something to me?
Well, not only my dad, but I had a couple of my buddies that still wanted to see him, I mean, that's it. They thought he got off
light.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it all boils down to, that he got off light and nothing happened. But it took some, some convincing, but he's not going to sit back and just take nothing. So it could have been, either way, it could have went either way for anyone, but luckily, and we, you got to remember the area we're in Six Trunk for a lot of that.
Yes.
And this is Betty's restaurant we're talking about. Where this happened at. So everybody out there, they know the area, they know. So all you got to do is Six Trunk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Last chance, in other words.
Yes. I do want to remind everybody that this is the Death or Prison podcast brought to you by Lean On Me USA. We want you to hit that podcast button to connect with a welcoming, mentoring church, in your local neighborhood. We're definitely here to offer hope, guidance, and encouragement. You've been listening to Unintended Consequences, and just with a few minutes left, I wanna pose this question to both of you. I'll start with you, Elmo, because I can tell you that you look at the power of God when because I could never see that person within the year that I've known you. But that's how God changes people. That's the power of the testimony of how God can change someone. But there's a lot of youth out there that still have that same mindset that you have today. I mean, that you had back then. Mm-hmm. They have that today. People are listening. If you could say something to them, or to even people who are in and around their lives, maybe it's a father, maybe it's a bigger brother, maybe it's a mentor, what would you say to them who are living that life? And that life that I'm talking about, and I'll let you close out with what you would say to them in regards to that.
Right. We had a conversation with a young lady the other night, and she asked me, what would you tell your younger self?
Yes.
And that's always a question that requires deep thought, because you want to tell your younger self, that these situations are going to come about. The first thing that came to my mind is that always be willing to dream. Always be willing to dream. And when you make mistakes, forgive yourself and get around people that'll allow you to have error in your life. Mm. Because there's my dreams at that young age was snuffed out. The person that I wanted to be, the person that I envisioned, it was killed by my community. When I say be willing to forgive yourself, because now here we are again, and I'm in my 50s, and I'm talking about something that I committed when I was 16. This podcast, this leanonmeusa.org, this death of prison has allowed me to ask for forgiveness so that I can move on. Mm. From the time I committed that crime to now, I haven't been able to move on. So you got to look at your own past and find out a way to reconcile with those who you've hurt. And the most important thing, get around people that care about you. Find the welcoming church. Find people that'll mentor you, that have your sincere desire to see you succeed at the forefront of your mind. That's why this young man and myself can sit across from each other. We're blessed that we didn't kill each other and have opportunity to reconcile with each other in front of millions of people. The healing now starts at this junction now of death or prison. We're asking our viewers again to always choose life.
And so, Willie, you're either speaking to your young self or a version, because we see a lot of young guys. I know you can drive through certain neighborhoods and you can look at certain people and say, wow, that was me. What do you say to that person today that's living in that type of lifestyle, that carefree, dangerous lifestyle?
Well, I try to explain to them, through my journey. It's like entering a road this wide, but at the end it's like this. And, we came up in an era, like you say, we were supposed to be a statistic. Mm. Either dead or in prison. Mm. So like Elmore said earlier, you came out of that. What I would say to someone, like, you're in it, but you don't have to be of it.
Yes.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So just because you see this and that, you don't have to be. But it's hard not to get lured into that. It's just hard not to.
Yes.
Because, you can go out there and sell some drugs and make more money than your mother ever thought about, And it was all about, just surviving, trying to stay ahead of the game and trying to get out. And then, but as I got older, you got to realize once you get, that felony on you, even if you do a little bit of time, as Elmore said, 21 days,
yes.
but it's a life sentence because you got that felony on the rest of your life.
The rest of your life.
And you don't even realize, what the future going to be, but it carries on. And it still affects you, later on in life. So, and my pastor, Willie Frazier, he's gone now, but he always said when we go through things, it's not for us.
Absolutely.
So it's for others. So if this could be a blessing to any young man out there, I would really, here we are, two guys that
The testimony.
want to kill each other, tried to kill each other.
Yes.
Good thing it was a bad shot. Tried to kill each other, and we can sit down today, 30. I didn't even realize 30-something years later.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just
35 years.
35 years later, and talk about it. So what I guess God had a vision for us. So we went through it just to be able to sit down today and talk about it.
And that is the entire purpose of the podcast. You've been listening to the Death or Prison podcast brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. We say death or prison, but we want you to choose life. Thank you all for listening, and we hope that it's something that's been said that is inspiring or touching to you, that has brought some type of hope, some type of encouragement, some type of guidance. Thank you.
Looking for a welcoming church? Connect at leanonmeusa.org. Join us next time for more of John Branham's conversation with Willie Goldsby and Elmo Golden. Find out how two men went from a gunfight to forgiveness. Death or Prison is a production of leanonmeusa.org. Copyright 2020. Death or Prison is offered for information only and is not intended as legal advice. Thank you for listening.
I can change the world. Feed one, teach one boy and girl. Maybe we can change the world.